Hi all, this is the first real video on a build I'm doing. It's the X-Wing fighter from Star Wars. This is just an AMT kit. It's the flight display kit, so basically it comes with, as you can see on the box there, it comes with a large acrylic disc, and you sort of mount the model through it so it looks like it's flying. There's no obvious stand. The only thing I find a little bit strange about that is it's supposed to look like it's in flight, yet there's no pilot. How does that work? That's really strange to me. I thought at first it was missing from the kit, but it's not. You get a little droid, you get an R2 droid, an astromech droid, but no pilot. If I can show you the, there we are. That's it. So this is just the inside of the cockpit area, which I was going to try and light up for the customer, with some little LEDs and some fibre optics or something. Might even be able to run a little fibre optic up into the astromech droid's head. Maybe get a little blue or red light or something there. And obviously the other thing to do would be to put some flickering or just some nice bright LEDs in the engines to make those look like they're lit. So that all kind of makes sense, but how can you have it in flight if it's not got a pilot? The only two options that really occur to me are to shade the canopy so you can't see through it, but then that wrecks the idea of putting some lights on the cockpit itself, which is this little piece. Terrible moulding. In fact, the kit is pretty diabolical. The two halves, there's absolutely nothing to key these two together. You know, wing and prayer come to mind. But there we go. We'll find a way, but it's just not a good kit. And then, as I say, there's even a little sort of key area there for a pilot on the seat, but no pilot. So the only thing I can really think is we'll do it like that, and we'll try and make it look like the droid is flying it, which obviously you never saw in Star Wars, but you did see in some of the prequels where R4 took Ben Kenobi's little ship back up to I forget where it was now, but so yeah, so I mean that's the only thing that kind of makes sense, as I can maybe put a little light in the droid, maybe have some controls lit up on the dashboard, but without a pilot, you would normally put this on the landing gear and have it, you know, in a hangar bay somewhere, or have it on the surface. But that's the only thing I can really think of. So Stuart, if you're watching this, let me know what you think. I'm assuming you're going to want still to do it in flight with the wings opened up into the X formation. We'll just have to do it with a droid flying it, unless I can find a little scale pilot from somewhere that's the right scale for the model. That's another option. Maybe an aftermarket pilot I can find to put in there. So we'll see. So basically what I've done is I found this in one of the arts and hobby stores, I think it was. Basically the idea is that they're just wooden letters. You can put it in kids' bedrooms and, you know, spell their name, etc., etc., or whatever else you want to do. But I thought that would make a good stand for an X-Wing, and we'll mount it sort of something like that. Obviously we could just paint this black and with a tube and the stand black, so it doesn't really stand out. Or the other idea I had was, let's make this look like buildings, the surface of the Death Star, which I do know that the customer likes the idea of. So, and again, with that, there's many different ways of doing it. We could, there's a lot of graphics on the internet of the surface of the Death Star at distance. So we could sort of basically print off something like that, and then laminate it so it's encased in plastic, cut it to fit, and we can make this look like the surface just using images basically. Or the other option is to kit bash it. Get loads of kits and, you know, get parts out of other kits and just sort of do this kind of thing, you know, just add all the detail to the surface, much like they do with all the greeblies, they call these. You know, all the bits of different shapes of model kits, usually sort of battleships or racing cars and things like that, bits of engine, and they make quite a good surface. If it's all, you know, if you imagine filling this right up with little bits and pieces and making it look quite interesting, and then having a you know, painting it all up like the Death Star surface. So that's the sort of idea I'm playing with. So these are obviously bits of this kit, so they're not going to be used. So the other thing I've done is, and again, strangely, and this is probably because they're using a kit from other, you know, parts from other kits in the same molds. This actually came with 2 slots for landing gear. No, sorry, not for landing gear, for the stand. Which again is slightly strange because this kit doesn't have a stand. It's this big disc that you see here. There's a stand there. That's the base. The disc goes in, and then the model goes through the disc, like so. So the first thing I'm doing really is just to fill and get rid of these slots that we don't need. And once they're pretty much invisible, what I'm going to do is do the usual telescopic stand. And the idea is I shall cut this one down and we'll mount this one up into here, which, if you remember, in I think it's End of Empire Strikes Back, when Luke leaves Dagobah, you see this hatch opens up and they've got some luggage in there. So basically I'm going to have the stand going up through the sort of luggage compartment door, and then I can sort of block that out inside, make it nice and solid as that comes up through it, like so. And then that will sit in there, and like on the older models I do, it'll be able to be, you can turn it and have it whichever direction you like, without it cutting the wire, because the wire will be down the inside of this tube, not that tube, so there won't be any edges for it to get cut on. So that's the plan. I'll come back and show you a little bit more as the build progresses, and I'll have a word with the customer, Stuart. As I say, if you let me know what you think about the lack of pilot, whether we try and get one from somewhere, or whether we just do it as though the droid's flying the ship home or something. I don't know. So we'll see. Or whether you just don't want cockpit lights and we just black out the windows. That's another option, obviously. But we just light the droid and light the engines. But then I think that's a shame. It'd be nice to try and get some little twinkly lights up in here. So anyway, that's it for now. I'll do a bit more when I've got a bit more to show you. Okay, so far basically what I've done is just assembled 1/4 of the wing section. This bit doesn't involve anywhere near the engines, so I can still get my my holes drilled and my wiring through. So just I've run out. I can't find my little what would you call them? Can't think. My little sort of pincer things, my little grips. Since the move, I know I've packed them away somewhere. I just can't think where they are. So I'm cheating at the moment and using clothes pegs, which do an almost just as good job of just holding things together while they're gluing. So it's just holding the parts of the wing together so I don't get any nasty gaps in the seam. So anyway, that's just a fairly simple step, and I shall leave it for now and come back to you a bit later. Okay, a bit more done today. This is the continuation of the underside of the wings. I've just put a piece of metal through there just to help me see how they're going to open up and close, and so that I can get all the bits in the right places without upsetting the fit. So the idea is going to be, because I can do this much pretty much without any wiring issues, but eventually you're going to have the engine sitting back here, and the plan is to take a wire through that small piece there up to the end, and then these are the thrust vector planes, or whatever you'd call them, on a jet engine or a rocket engine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill through there, try and think of something to put behind it so that the LED is diffused. This one I've already started to cut, but I don't know where it is at the moment. But anyway, you get the idea. So just a little update for today, not too much done, just a wee bit. Going to pop out this week, see if I can come up with some ideas on this. I'm either going to try a laminated picture of the surface of the Death Star cut up and glued to fit, or I might even just try and buy some small tank kits or battleship kits, so you've got lots of tiny little parts, and just absolutely cover it with little greeblies, as they call them, to make it look like the surface of something much bigger. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, I'm going to do a bit more work on the X-Wing today. This is the sort of effect I'm going to try and get on it if I can. That's nicely weathered and looks pretty good, so I don't know if we can get quite that good, but we'll do my best. Now the stand, I think I may have mentioned in an earlier video, the stand I was going to try and paint the surface like the Death Star. Now there's two options. One is paint it as that model's been, or the other is to do a sort of closer scale with buildings type thing, and actually have it a bit more 3D. So I'll just give you a little idea on that. I did leave this up earlier, sorry, I've closed it by mistake. Okay, so the other option is to do it something like this, try and use lots of bits and pieces to try and create some kind of 3D surface, but that means getting a lot of bits and pieces the right scale. There are people that do, that's quite good actually, there are people that do sort of scale model mouldings, and you can do tiles. There's a guy who used to sell them on eBay, but I have had a look and they're not there at the moment. That's quite an interesting surface. So yeah, interesting. It would be nice to be able to do something like that, but it would take an awful lot of time if you were going to try and make all this out of sheet styrene. It'd take a lot of time to do, but it's a possibility. But I'm thinking at the moment, I'm just going to bear with me and I'll just save that image, because that's quite useful for later. Right. But I'm thinking at the moment of painting just like this around here, just this sort of surface. So it's the Death Star surface, but from high altitude. So Stuart, let me know what you think, whether you like a sort of lower altitude with sort of more 3D bits, but that means sticking bits on which ultimately might come off because it's a wooden base and then it's plastic parts. So, you know, there's a potential longevity issue with that. Whereas this, if I could somehow try and emulate this kind of paintwork for the surface, so it looks like the surface of the Death Star at a distance, that might look quite good. Okay, well this is the base that I was talking about a few moments ago with what to do with the Death Star surface, but I'm thinking paint that so it looks like an enormous block of buildings or something. So that's the idea. So today what I'm doing, I'm building the wings assembly up over time, but today I'm going to do a bit of work on the engines. Now these are the engines, basically they come in two parts. Sorry if the focus isn't very good, I'm using my phone instead of the usual camera. But these are the parts as they come. They're obviously solid normally, and then you've got that bit goes on the end, and those would be the engines. Now what I'm proposing to do is drill a hole through there, LED in the middle, cut this away something like that one, so that then I'll have to cut through there as well, so that is going to go on to there, and then some sort of diffuser in the middle to give it a bit of colour. Because one of the problems with the X-Wings, if you want to try and make it accurate, is the engines aren't white and they're not red. They, if you look on the screen, they come up as a sort of pinky colour, which isn't so easy to get right. Okay, I've had to switch to the main camera now because the battery's gone in the iPhone. So what I'm doing at the moment is basically using a drill to allow me to put a wire through the back of the engines, which is going to power the LED, and then I've got to cut a circle in here and in here which is going to make up the engines. So basically I'm just using a 1.5mm drill and very carefully drilling the entry hole for the wiring. And then a good way on this is, and I just hope the camera's going to pick this up, I'm drawing almost a pattern semicircle of holes, and then once you've got the holes you can just use the drill to melt the plastic and effectively carve the circle. Right, I'll neaten that up with a file, but you get the idea. So we've got a little hole here for the wiring, and we've got a much larger hole here for the illumination. I'm just going to do that a little bit more. This is the hole, so we've got little hole one end, larger hole the other. I'm just going to use the drill to try and make that a little bit more round. I do intend to get myself a Dremel at some point, which will do a neater job of this, but for now this is quite adequate, and I can just tidy it up with a file. So that's that one done. I'm going to try and zoom the camera in a bit more for the next one, so bear with me. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure, so that's basically the end for the wiring. Actually, I've cut this one mostly already. Just going to make it a little larger. Obviously, you need to be fairly used to using drills and things like this. So do be careful, don't take any risks. It's even harder to build models if you've hurt your hands, so yeah, don't take any risks, do it as safely as you can. If you've got some way of holding that in a drill press or something, obviously far better than what I'm doing here. But I've just got fairly used to working like this. Okay, now this last one, I've got the hole for the top for the wire, but I've not started on the engine part. So what I'm going to do now, and you can see the process right from the start, is I want to make that engine look like those, and then I'm going to neaten them up so I can then put the engine cover over, do the same thing with the engine cover, and then we'll have some light coming through there because I'm going to cut a hole through here as well. In fact, I'm going to do this one first. Let's just back that out a little bit, and then we'll do some of the others. So what I'm going to basically do here is I'm going to draw a clock face of holes with the drill. So I'm using the tape and I'm just holding the two sides together. They're not glued yet. So I'm just going to put 4 holes at the compass points, north, south, east, west if you like, and then I'm just going to join the dots. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. A bit harder to do it while I'm trying to hold it so the camera can see. Go again there. So just join up these last few holes now. So now we've got a nice big hole which we can tidy up. Now, when you're using a drill effectively to melt plastic, you get quite a bit on the drill, and then your next hole ends up bigger than the first one. So every now and again I'm just literally using a little Sharpie to just take off any excess there. And that's basically the idea. I shall neaten it up with a hand file. It's very rough at the moment, but it just gives you an idea how I've been getting some of the holes where I need them. What I'll do quickly while the camera's still rolling, I'm going to do this piece. So this is one of the end pieces for the engine, and effectively we need to do the same thing. Now, one little tip when you're doing this, keep the drill bit as short as possible. You get less wobble and you get more accurate results. So I don't want to go through the wall, so I'm going to drill from the inside. So, we've got our first load of holes. Now we're just going to join them all up. Again, if you're new to this, hold the piece in a vise, pin vise or something. I've been doing this for a long time, so I'm fairly used to working freehand without losing bits of fingers, which is not something you want to do. Right, so we have a reasonable start for a hole. We also have a load of melted plastic around the drill, which if you try and pull off with your hands, A, it can be hot, and B, it's quite hard, but if you use a little knife, you can just give it a few of those and it's all gone. So, this is going to give you an idea. So it's very rough, okay, I've not neatened it up yet. So we've got the engine, which will have the wire coming through the back, the LED in the middle, there'll be some sort of diffuser there to give it a bit of colour, and then the engine piece goes on the end, and then we'll have light all the way through. So we'll have a nice big bulb in there to give it some power. So that's the idea. I'm using a curved rat tail. It's like a rat tail file. It's just a curved file which I can use to just tidy up this inside edge. Obviously I'll take a bit longer normally. I'm just trying to give you an idea while the camera's rolling. Some people say I tend to show the results, but I don't show a lot of the technique, so I'm trying to do just that here. So I just buy these little sets of files which have all the relevant shapes, and it's much easier. So that's really turning into quite a nice neat hole through there now. Obviously this needs to be primed and light blocks like I do on so many of the models I build. Give that a bit of a tidy up on the inside. Right, so hopefully I can show you. If I show you against my top because it's dark, that gives you an idea how we've just created. We've got a bit of dust on it, but that's how we've just created the end of the rocket motor. So we'll have plenty of light coming through there, and all I have to do is do the same tidying process on these, which doesn't take long actually. If you've got a good, these files are very cheap, and if you use new file and if you run a wire brush or something over the file every now and again, when it starts to fill up with plastic, you'll find that its cutting power is so much better. If it's full of plastic, it loses its abrasive surface and you'll be there all day. So use some good files. So engine and the engine nozzle on the end, and that's the result really. So far anyway, without being too tidied up. So I'm just going to repeat that 4 times or another 3 times. I'm sure you don't want to watch me do that, so I'll let you escape the boredom of doing that. I shall do that and show you a bit more when I'm a bit further along. I'll talk to you in a bit. Okay, right, so I've been a little bit, I've just been keeping busy doing those engines. We now have the parts to make all 4, so the end rings have tidied up pretty much all I need to for now. I can make final improvements just before I go to start painting them, but at least with this I can test out the theory. I can pop my LED in the engine here and experiment with different bulbs. I've got some that flicker, some that are on all the time, and obviously you need to experiment with the colour as well, because the colour is a bit of an issue with the X-Wing, as I said earlier. So that's the engines prepped for now. I'm going to do a little bit of, I'm going to get some primer on the base next, I think, and then some thinking about what to do with that Death Star surface, as I showed you earlier. This is the base. I've filled in the slots that came with it. They're not finished, but a little bit of sanding and they'll be, you won't even know they were there. And then I need to mount a securing rod in there that's going to fit into the bottom one, the main one, so it has a sort of telescopic fit type thing. One of the more adventurous things I'm planning to do is, as there's no pilot for this kit, I'm going to get the Droid flying it, I think. I've spoken to the customer I'm building it for, and I think he likes the idea. So this is not a very large, but nevertheless it is R2-D2, so if I can get to focus. Just about. Anyway, I'm going to try, as he's hollow, I'm going to try and get a little LED in the superstructure here, so LED will fit down in this bit down where the wings sit, and then I'm going to run some fibre optics up and try and do what would be cool if I could do 2 blue lights on one side for the little data ports he has, and then really ambitious would be to do an RGB that changes colour for the mood light under the eye. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have room for too many LEDs, because I'll need to do the cockpit. I want to try and get some lights up here as well, but we'll see. It's just ideas floating around my little head at the moment. So I'll do a little bit more, and then I'm probably going to wrap up the first video and call it a day as far as this edition or this episode is concerned. Okay, just getting some primer here on the base. Going to need a few coats, as it's wood, obviously very porous. But it'll just allow me to experiment with how I'm going to do a Death Star surface. I had this great idea. And the only trouble with having great ideas is you then got to figure out how to make it work. Okay, it's getting very whoa, we need a painting bay, I really do. Right, need some air. Too much paint in here, so I'm going to go and escape and get some clean air while that dries, and I'll be back later, but I think that might be the end for this video, as I said earlier. So hope you enjoyed, and I shall be making the next one very soon. Bye for now.